I'm Vidwan Perera, and today's lecture will be about uh, the extinction. So, I want to hear what you guys think about extinction. Is it a good thing or bad thing? Tell me after the lecture. I think your idea will be changed about uh, extinction. So, I will be speaking about. I will give a brief introduction about what is extinction and Lazarus taxa and about mass extinctions and the following topics. So, what is extinction? Simply, extinction is that a species is no longer existing, and we know it for sure. Like, there's no doubt about it. If we think about the dinosaurs, we are so sure that no dinosaur is living today. That means the last member of that species is already dead. So we say that the entire species is gone extinct. But as the species has a potential range, a very large area, there might be misunderstanding that a species has already gone extinct, but there may be remaining members of that species. So then we find them after a time period. Researchers will again find that uh, species in the wild or somewhere, and we call it Lazarus taxa. That means reappearing of a extinct species. So when we talk about extinctions, there's there have been 5 mass extinctions. That means uh, a whole lot of animal species or creatures have gone extinct at a short time period. We call it a mass extinction. So we will be speaking about 5 mass extinctions that have occurred in the Earth: the Ordovician Silurian, the Devonian, the Permian extinction, or we call it the Great Dying, the Triassic Jurassic extinction, and the Cretaceous Tertiary extinction. So these are the periods of time uh, from the beginning of the life in Earth. You can see where the Ordovician and Devonian, Permian, and Triassic, as well as Cretaceous periods lie. Uh, okay, so the Ordovician extinction. As we know from today, the life may have formed somewhere in the Earth, maybe in a volcano pool, and it evolved into something big and beautiful. In the Ordovician, the oceans were full of life. The land was actually barren, but various kinds of creatures like invertebrates, cephalopods, and earliest creatures with bones like bony fish flourished in the oceans. You can see in these pictures, there's a trilobite in the lower left picture and cephalopods in the left lower picture, species like octopus. So it was not like today's oceans, a bit different. There were corals and as well as sea lilies. Then we talk about the temperatures of the environment. It was like 2 degrees higher from today. So there was no sea cap, ice cap, and the most of the land concentrated in the southern hemisphere. That was the Earth back then. Then, for an unknown reason, the temperatures start to drop. So we call it an abrupt ice age. Occurred in the Ordovician, end of the Ordovician period. And the ice age ice age did not actually last for long, and the temperatures start rising again. So the creatures were devastated due to the temperature changes and the climate changes. Most of the creatures lived in the oceans. So that caused the first mass extinction of Earth. So these are the creatures. Like in the right, we have the cephalopod. Told you, like the octopus-like creature, and first fish. And if you look at the left upper corner, you will see the abrupt ice age in the Ordovician, causing the devastation. And if we look deep into the extinctions, we can see that extinctions may look harmful or uh, something not good. But if we look at the history of mass extinctions, it paves a way, it gives a path for another species. That means it's like a lottery. The extinction is like a lottery actually for the survivors, and they will be the winners of the next time period, and they will flourish the next time period. We see it when we come from the Ordovician to the Devonian period. The life, the bony fish actually, some of them escaped the first extinction. So they flourished and evolved in the Devonian period. We call it the age of the fish. You can see uh, fish like Dunkleosteus, the big fish in the picture you see in the right lower corner, big jaws. It's a predatory fish. Fish like that, various bizarre fish start appearing in this era. And in the land, there were plants growing. The forests appear, and the forests, that means the trees, started uh, putting water vapor into the atmosphere, and that caused storms and climate changes. So the ocean life did not actually adapted to that situation. The uh, we call it the plant matter. The decaying plant matter started entering the oceans, and the O2 levels dropped in the oceans. And actually, the oceans at the Devonian period, at the end of it, were not friendly for the ocean life. So this caused climate changes, and all the changes of the environment caused the second mass extinction, that is the Devonian extinction. And if we are to escape from the extinction, we have to simply get out of the ocean. That's what the fish like Tiktaalik you can see in the right lower corner. Sorry, I call the Dunkleosteus. It's the left corner fish, lower left corner, the big fish with big jaws. The Tiktaalik is the first fish to to move out of the water. So we can see it evolved with the fins became limbs, and it had gills as well as lungs. So it started, it slithered out of the extinction to the land. And you can see the land is flourishing with plants. It's not very well affected with the extinction. So then, as I told you before, the winners, the survivors became the winners, and a new chapter uh, started in the earth. So then we come to the Permian uh, period, where the land animals flourished in land. There was a supercontinent was built. That means all the land came together and built what we call the Pangea, and the land living creatures evolved a revolutionary body type. We call it the tetrapods. Like four-legged creatures start to rule the earth. And in the Permian period, there were egg-laying creatures like first hard-shelled egg layers. We could see them, and creatures like Dimetrodon with sails to uh, like absorb sun rays, and various adaptations, herbivores with beaks, and also in the ocean, the life flourished in the oceans as well. But for some unknown reasons, still researchers are finding what are the main reasons. But for now, we know that volcanic eruptions, which caused a huge amount of greenhouse gases to enter the atmosphere, may have caused uh, the start of the next large extinction, the mass extinction, the Permian extinction. It is the biggest extinction. We call it the Great Dying. 96% of animals, uh, marine animal species got extinct, and 70% of the terrestrial animals also became extinct. You can see what the Permian life would have looked. The sea, there were the first sharks appeared, and the terrestrial creatures like we call it the pre-dinosaurs appeared in land. But all of them, most of them got extinct, but it paved the way for some bizarre creatures to rule the earth. Permian extinction is the incident which gave the throne to the dinosaurs. So we are coming to the Triassic period. After the Permian, there was a huge amount of space left as many of the species got extinct. So the surviving reptiles in the Permian era started to evolve. So you can see the extinctions and the evolution. The two processes are interlinked. If you can't adapt to the environmental stress, the environment, changes of the environment, either a species may evolve or they may get extinct. So in the Triassic period, the reptiles survived the Permian extinction started to flourish with various shapes, uh, and we call it the dawn of the dinosaurs. So in the Triassic period, Africa and Europe started to move apart from the American continent, and the Atlantic Ocean was created. At that period, huge volcanic eruptions started to occur, and this caused another mass extinction, the fourth mass extinction, and there were many causes other than the volcanic eruptions, the climate changes, and the temperature changes, because we can see the Permian period was high. The temperatures were much higher, uh, and increased more and more uh, after the extinction, and the warmer climate, the reptiles started ruling, and the Triassic period was the dawn of the dinosaurs. And the Triassic extinction occurred with the volcanic eruptions. After the Triassic extinction, we come to the most famous prehistoric time period, the Cretaceous time period, where mega dinosaurs started to appear. like T-Rex and 40 feet long various dinosaurs. Even in the skies, the theropods, Quetzalcoatlus, uh, they had 12-meter wingspan, like small aeroplanes. And even in the sea, the mosasaurs, 18-meter long, huge monster reptiles, started to appear. Uh, and they started flourishing the planet. You can see in this picture as well, huge reptiles, dinosaurs, uh, started to rule the planet, but it also ended uh, in an instance. We call it the Cretaceous tertiary extinction. And today, researchers have found that the main cause of this extinction is uh, an asteroid that struck the Earth close to the Mexican Gulf. We call we The researchers have found that when we like see the soil layers which belong to the Cretaceous, at the end of the Cretaceous period, we find a thick iridium metal layer. The iridium is actually a rare element in the Earth, but at the end of the Cretaceous time period, in the soil belonging to that time period, we find a huge iridium uh, element layer. So if we see the asteroids, they contain a high amount of iridium. So we can say that that's a good proof to say that uh, the asteroid may have caused the end of the Cretaceous time period. So sixth extinction, yes, we are in it. We are in the sixth mass extinction, and now the asteroid is humans. We are the asteroid. Humans have it's the Anthropocene. That means our humans era. We are now changing the environment in various ways, and we are causing another mass extinction. So we also that when a mass extinction occur, the dominant species mostly they disappear. So in the sixth mass extinction, if it occurs, we are the first to disappear. So this is a suicide run. We are affecting the earth in intolerable ways. Now the climates are also uh, changing, and species are getting extinct in a much higher rate. So I will hand over the presentation to speak about the in a deeper level about the extinction to Nipun, my friend Nipun.
Thank you, Vidwan. Hello, everyone. I'm Nipun. I think you all have got an idea about the extinction and the mass extinctions. So, in this planet Earth, this includes a lot of living species like mammals, birds, reptiles, fish, and insects, trees, bacteria, algae, and single-celled organisms. Like that, there's a rich flora and fauna. There's a rich flora and fauna population. So, but from the beginning of the life, 99.9% of all living species have gone extinct. So, I'm going to explain you what are the reasons for them to be extinct and why they have gone extinct. If we take a look at this slide, what's the first thing? The first thing that comes into our mind after, when we talk about extinction, that's asteroid strikes because of that dinosaurs thing. And you can see some other things such as climate changes and diseases, lack of genetic diversity, human predation, loss of habitats, and invasive species. Like that, there are some reasons that for animals to be extinct. I'll explain you one by one. The first thing, the most popular thing, asteroid strikes. About 65 million years ago, there was asteroid strike that happened in the shallow sea oceans of the Mexico that caused the extinction of dinosaurs. Also, that asteroid strike caused the extinction of 90% of animals and all the species that was living at that time. Only few species that was living at the sea and in the sea and some on the ground was able to survive this extinction. Something that animals get killed by directly by the asteroid strike, but that's not true. The side impact events like air pollution and temperature increasing and some wavelengths ain't good for the animals, things like that cause those extinctions. So something like this can happen at any time, even right now. I mean, there's a very low probability, but there's a risk. So the next one, climate changes. We don't have to go further. About 11,000 years ago, in the end of last ice age, I think you'll have watched those ice age movies, so you have a idea about what species were living at that time, uh, like mammoths and the saber-tooth tigers, ones with those big teeth. They've gone extinct because I think you have noticed that they have a long coat on their skin. So they were endotherms and they weren't able to vary their body temperature with the environment temperature. So when the temperature increases rapidly, not rapidly, quickly, when the temperature increases quickly, they weren't able to survive that temperature increase. So they have gone extinct, and the people, then the human lived at that time, started hunting them because they were starving and they were facing diseases. So the human at that time hunted the weak animals. Even right now, if you take about nowadays, if you take a look at nowadays, there's also global warming happening. It happens because of the greenhouse effect. Now, I'm not going to explain you about greenhouse effect, but if you are interested and if you want to learn about it, please search some more about it. And it's an interesting topic. So this global warming happens only because of the humans. It's 100% because of the humans. So it causes some effects like sea level is increasing and the sea warmth and glaciers are melting. So effects like this affects those damages those environment systems. So the polar bears and some whales aren't able to survive. So it also will be guiding to another extinction. Also, I have to mention that Vidwan said, as I remember, Vidwan said also, about 500 million years ago, the average temperature on the Earth was 2 to 3 degrees above than the today's, but the sea level was 600 meters higher than today. So that's the direction we are going right now. And there was no glaciers also for this. So the next big thing, loss of habitats. Animals require a certain amount of territory to find their food and breed and to raise their young. Like that, they need a certain amount of territory. Some needs a small amount. Like as an example, if you take a small bird, it would be sufficient. A small branch of a tree would be sufficient for him. But when we consider megafauna animals like Bengal tigers and elephants measure their domains in square miles. So they need the huge amount of area to keep their territory. So as this human civilization expands into the wild, those animals lose their habitats, and the area they can live food get decreased. So the amount of animals some other reasons for the extinctions like lack of genetic diversity uh, when the area they can live when the number goes decrease the lack of genetic diversity comes into attack and diseases can spread quickly as well. uh, like that the Bengal tigers and elephants and some other species are facing a huge problem because of the loss of habitats, and it's also happening mainly because of the human behavior. The next thing, lack of genetic diversity. Why do animals need the genetic diversity? If think if all animals are same, like if you take a look at that picture, those two cheetahs are same in looks, not only in looks, but also in some other things like they are able to fight against diseases. They have to be different. Then only they can survive. And imagine if a fatal disease comes and their genetics can't survive against this, and everyone is same, so there's a risk that animal has to be gone extinct. So also this lack of genetic diversity produces weak newborners, and I think you all have heard that this is why it is good to marry a complete stranger than your first cousin. Uh, yeah. And currently, African cheetahs are suffering from unusually low genetic diversity. Next one, diseases. Uh, it is unusual that disease could alone wipe out an animal, but the grounders have done by the lack of food and loss of habitats and lack of genetic diversity, like that. The groundwork has done by those things, and mainly by the humans. So uh, we have great example in front of us. If we take a look at the coronavirus, think it was deadly, and you know it is growing rapidly, and if it was deadly, the human could have gone extinct. The humans. The next thing, the lack of food. This is a route to extinction because the hunger waking population are much more prone to diseases and the predation. Uh, I think you'll have some of you might have not been heard about the invasive species. We must care about this as well. If a plant or animal from one ecosystem transplanted into another, it can reproduce widely and overcome native species. It is called as invasive species. I'll give a little example, otherwise you won't be. It will be hard for you to understand this. In Sri Lanka, in the urban water bodies, there are some invasive species such as the one is in this the ugly spotted fish in this picture. It's called clown night fish, and there are also tank cleaners also in water bodies in urban areas. Those fish have overcome the native species that was living at that area, like bulak tapaya and some other native species in Sri Lanka. So if we take a look at the if you look at the water bodies in urban areas, you won't be able to see those fishes. So what are the disadvantages of invasive species? If you think about it, like uh, the large fishes, they are not interested in eating like mosquito eggs, or there has to be small fishes as well in those water system environment systems. So if they eat the small fishes, the population start increasing. So it has become a major problem in urban areas. The next thing, population. It's also 100% by the human beings. And also the dudus. Dudu, a bird. I think you all have heard about it. The dodo birds, some species like pigeons, they lived in the East Madagascar, and they were killed by the Dutch. So they have gone extinct. And also the passenger pigeon, it was living in North America, and they were also killed by people. And also you can see in this picture, there's a major problem for the leopards in Sri Lanka. Also there's a picture of dudus that killed by the Dutch people. So it takes a huge amount of time for a species to be created, but it don't get long for them to be extinct. So as Vidwan mentioned earlier, we are going on a suicide way. So we have to think about it. And that now the interesting part comes in. I'll hand over this to the Sachith.
Thank you, Nipun. Hello, everyone. I am Poorni Jayasekara. As Nipun said, as Nipun said, there are many causes to animal extinction. Unfortunately, we are in the sixth mass extinction. To overcome this pathetic situation, the modern day scientists, nature lovers, have presented a barometer of life to them, life to measure the threats faced by uh, animal species. So it is none other than so-called Red Data Book. So you guys can see, as you guys can see in the screen, the Red Data Book is a state document established for documenting rare and endangered species of animals, plants, and fungi, as well as some sublocal species that exist within the territory. So I think you guys can see the picture in the upper corner. It is the logo of the Red Data Book, and in the right corner is a picture of the National Red List of Sri Lanka. So the IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature, the Red List of Threatened Species, founded in 1964, is the world most comprehensive inventory of the global conservation status of the global species. So in this picture, we can see the IUCN Red List categories. It divides Red List divide animals species into 9 categories. It contains color coded themes. As example, you can see in this picture there are 9 categories, and uh, as example, in black color, the extinct category is represented, and in the red color, the critically endangered category is represented, and also in the orange color, endangered category is indicated. And likewise, uh, you may wonder how we categorize species into these animals, into these categories. So we will discuss about it and solve that problem. First, we'll discuss how the species uh, categorized into extinct group. Extinct animals are beyond reasonable doubt that the species is not longer extant, and extinct in wild is survives only in captivity, cultivation, and or outside the native range as presumed after exhaustive surveys. And critically endangered animals are in a particular and extremely critical state. Endangered are very high risk of extinction in wild meets any of criteria A to E for endangered. uh, in these pictures, I think you guys can see in the left upper corner is the saber-tooth tiger. Uh, it is a good example for extinct animal species. In the right upper corner, it spares doves, deer. It is an example for species that extinct in wild. Below the saber-tooth tiger, you can see this monkey. It is the purple first-faced langur. This fellow is endemic to Sri Lanka. Purple-faced langur is a critically endangered animal. And in the right lower corner, you can see this fascinating mountain gorilla. Uh, the mountain gorilla is an endangered animal. So now we'll move on to the next category sessions. The fifth category is the vulnerable category. Vulnerable species meet one of the 5 list criteria and thus considered to be at high risk of human-caused extinction without further human intervention. And the sixth category is near threatened, close to being at a high risk of extinction in the near future. The seventh category is least concerned, is unlikely to become extinct in the near future. The eighth category is data deficient category. And the last but not least category is the not evaluated category. In this picture, you guys can see a beautiful giant panda. It belongs to vulnerable category. On the right side is the majestic white rhino. Uh, it is a good example for animal species, which is so scientific researchers, and also it provide information, informating policies and conventions, and also it influence resources allocation, also informing conservation planning, improving decision making, uh, and also finally it educate and raise the awareness of the people. So by these methods, the Red Data Book uh, supports the uh, animals from preventing the extinction, preventing them from extinct. In this picture, in these 2 pictures, you can see a conservation program for giant pandas, and in the lower picture, you can see a coral planting program as a conservation. So next we'll discuss a few extinct animal species in Sri Lanka. Those are in Red Book list. In the left upper corner is Sri Lankan Gavara. And the next one is Sri Lankan tiger. And on Sri Lankan lions are also been extinct. On the right upper corner, this animal is Sri Lankan rhino. Below you can see these 2 frogs. These are frogs that belong to Pseudophylatus genus. So now I would like to hand over the presentation to Sachith.
Hello everybody, I'm Sachith. I'll speak you about a few extinct animals in the world who went extinct in last 2 centuries in very modern time. The first one is Tasmanian tiger. This one also called as thylacine, and this is a mammal and carnivore and marsupial, which means they are close relations to kangaroos. And these guys are native to Australian continent, Tasmania. These photos are black and white, but this animal has a yellowish brown fur and had about 46 teeth. And also another important thing is you can see in this picture, this one can open their mouth about 120 degrees wide. This animal called Tasmanian tiger, not the Tasmanian devil, Tasmanian tiger, because they had these few stripes on their back, and they are not that dangerous animals. They are very shy creatures, and they always try to avoid humans. And when it comes to extinction, the last Tasmanian devil, Tasmanian tiger, seen in the wild was 1933, and last individual died in 1936, 7th September at Hobart Zoo. Next animal is passenger pigeon. These pigeons were endemic to North America, and in 1800s, there were billions of pigeons in North America, and they had the biggest nesting site in Wisconsin. And they are very popular as fast flying birds. So the reason for the extinction was hunting and losing habitats. So about the last individual is a passenger pigeon named Martha, died at 1914, September 1st, named after the George Washington's wife, Martha Washington. Died in Cincinnati Zoological Garden in Ohio. And after she died, her body was immediately frozen into a 300-pound ice block and shipped by a fast train to Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. And now her stuffed specimen is in Smithsonian Museum. Next one, this is quagga. You maybe think this is a hybrid animal. The first, front end is like a zebra and back end is like a horse. But this is actually a real species, and they are closely related to zebra. They lived in South Africa, and the main reason for their extinction was also the poaching. So in 1878, they became extinct in wild, and the last individual died in 1883, 12th August at Amsterdam Zoo. Next one, Pyrenean ibex. This goat species, they lived in Spain, Cantabrian Mountains, and southern France. So the main reason for their extinction is also poaching and some diseases they had. So they had this interesting fact because they became extinct twice. You may be wondering how. Because the last individual found dead in 2000, January 6, and after that, 2003, a living specimen was born by cloning, and however, she also died after 10 minutes after the birth due to the lung defect. So this animal became extinct once and then came back into life and then again extinct. Another one is golden toad. This beautiful toad was discovered in 1964 in South America. They had very small habitat range, and this animal extincted by direct result of global warming. This climate change, according to this climate change, they were more susceptible to deadly chytid fungus that led to their extinction. And last scene was recorded in 1989. And, another interesting animal in this list is this Zanzibar leopard. They lived in Zanzibar Islands. They were endemic to Zanzibar Islands. And this one was the smallest leopard in the world. But unfortunately, the government also supported humans to kill these leopards because they are to reduce them killing their livestock. So, and another important, very interesting fact is there were belief of these Zanzibar leopards are pet of witches, and people had that myth, and they had a fear about these leopards because the witches sent them to kill people like that. So that's also another reason to poaching. The people try to kill this one as sight. So in the Zanzibar leopards were extinct in 1900s, and there's one interesting fact. Another one in September 2018, the camera trap footage by Animal Planet's new program Extinct or Alive. You can find this on YouTube too. It clearly shows a similar looking leopard walking in this area. So that may be the Zanzibar leopard. So if this is a really Zanzibar leopard, we have to consider they are not totally extinct. Maybe they are living somewhere around in Zanzibar, maybe with witches. I don't know. Another one is Western black rhinoceros. So lived in West Africa. Rhinoceros have this wonderful looking two horns in their, and that's also their death certificate, like tusks in of elephants. Because these horns have good demand in black market, they are used to traditional medicine. Uh, So this one declared extinct in 2011, very close. Another one is Javan tiger, lived in Javan Islands. And same thing, poaching and losing habitats was the reason for their extinction. 1976 or 1980, that time period, they became extinct. And also another species like Caspian tiger and Bali tiger also became extinct in the same time period. And there are some recordings about the sightings of these Javan tigers, but they are not 100% proved. And you know who is this one? This is Dodo. You maybe see this guy in Ice Age movie too. So they lived in Mauritius Island. They are endemic to that island. This bird can't fly and little bigger than turkey. About weight is about 23 kilograms. So the Dutch sailors settled on this island in 1598. They killed dodos for food. So they killed dodos by beating with a stick like shown in this picture. And after that, in 1681, they became extinct. So these are some extinct animals in very last 2 centuries. And what should we do about this extinction? We have to do conservation. So there are two types of conservation. There are in situ and ex situ conservation. In situ conservation is conserve the species that may be animal or plant in their natural habitat and natural ecosystems. Uh, so the example for this one is national parks, biosphere reserves, and sanctuaries. In ex situ conservation, the conservation takes place in another place. It is not in their natural habitat, but in outside from the natural habitat, like zoo, aquarium, seed bed, and botanical gardens. So this is how we have to conserve the animals and also plants. So as humans, we have the responsibility of protect them from extinction, because we talked about a lot of extinct species before. So there are more species living in a extinct in wild and critically endangered in a red data book categories. So we have our responsibility to protect them, because it is important for maintain our biodiversity in our world. So this is the end of our